The issue with Rob Ford is that I think he was always a big boob.
This is the Citadel Cafe. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 87 for Wednesday, November 6th, 2013. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where myself and my friends gather to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. We cover everything from movies and television to books, apps, and websites. Joining me this week is none other than Mr. Ryan Murphy from the Gamers In podcast, the Zombies Ate My podcast, and Sleeping with the Elephant. Ryan, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. I'm sitting here with what's left of my venti, which is a coffee for the... I always say large, and it's like, you know what, I'm not going to speak Italian. Is it Italian? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But, anyways, I just said, give me a large dark roast. And I got a dark roast today, and I got one Sunday, and the price, it was, different by 60 cents. Do they charge extra on Sundays or something?
Nope, it shouldn't be. Did
Weird.
you get the same size?
Yeah, could have sworn.
That's weird.
Maybe, I don't know. It was weird.
60 cents is about the difference between a grande and a venti, I think, if memory serves.
I don't know. I was pretty tired on, that's probably coffee. It all tastes the same, right, going down.
Did you pay attention to which dark roast that you got?
No, I just said dark roast,
dark
and then
roast,
went over to the... I really should just... Because I always feel bad holding up a coffee line. I'm so used to going to Tim Hortons that when you're in the Tim Hortons line, for people who say Canadians are always polite, try going to a Tim Hortons and ordering more than your usual coffee. People get upset. So, I'm just so used to getting in a coffee line and being like, it's like, oh no, just give me this and I'll get out of everyone's way. So yeah, I didn't really look, but I guess next time I should just step aside and decide what I want.
I've been really liking the Komodo Dragon from Starbucks. It's a Japanese dark roast, and it's very, very good. There's also, I don't like their espresso roasts because they tend to be, I don't want to say too dark, but they tend to be too bitter for me, which is saying a lot because Starbucks coffee is pretty strong as it is. But the other one is a French roast. If you see a French dark roast on, then that's usually one to grab.
Cool.
The other weekend when I was at, what was it? The Halifax Pop Expo, I had 2 ventis in the course of a day. Let me tell you, sir, that is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the course of a kind of a business day setting, that's a lot to go through. Because you drink them quicker because they're all in one. I would probably, if I had smaller coffees, they'd last longer and I'd be more of a timed release. But when you have the 2 ventis, it kind of hits you really hard. But that was an early day for that con too, so it kind of creeps up at you when you're not expecting it. When you're not used to getting up and having to leave the house, by 7:30.
Yeah.
I was talking to Jocelyn the other day because she's been taking some odd shifts at work because of some stuff on the weekend that you and I will get into in just a second here. But, I was saying she was apologizing for having to set an alarm and get up early and wake me up. And I'm just like, nah, whatever. I have to go to work anyway. I really should get up at a normal time, which I usually do. But I have the option of sitting and reading the internet, articles I want to read or Twitter or something like that for about, an hour or so at leisure, before I do anything. I can sit there with a coffee and wake up and be mind ready before I go into the office and have to tackle email or quotes or stuff like that. And she was just looking at me like, I hate you. Because she loves her sleep and wants to wake up at 25 minutes before she has to dart out the door while I throw her lunch at her. Don't forget to eat. All this kind of stuff. And I was just like, it's been a long time for me working independently from home, and I don't know how well I would adjust to being thrown from here into a 9-to-5 government day job. I don't know how well I would handle that.
Yeah, there are a lot of places that are laid back, and I guess the difference is if you work salary, more is expected of you, but it's more relaxed in the sense that, and when there's a deadline, you hit that deadline and you have to work overtime, so be it, your salary. But I guess when you're like a time puncher, you got like a card and everything, and you're expected to be there on shifts, then
Mm.
it's a little different. It's not as relaxed, and you kind of have to be on time no matter what.
Yeah.
But I find that if you were to move to a salary position, like it would be, an easier change, but it would still be very different. Like I wish I could, my cousin works for a telephone company, and they will, and a lot of companies don't do this, but this company like is paying him to work from home. They're setting up his office to be a designated like work environment, and they're bringing in cables and all the equipment and stuff, making it so he can do his job at home. And this seems to be popping up every once in a while, and I would love for that to happen. And I
Mm.
think productivity, like you're at home, so you feel like you have to get more done to prove that you're working, right? So I think like the productivity is there. It would really be nice to work from home.
Yeah, it's nice to have a space that's separate. Like I've got
Hmm.
this 8 by 10 studio off the living room, so it's when I'm watching TV or having a dinner break, I'm not sitting in front of my work, which is nice.
Yeah.
But it's also not in my bedroom either. So like leering at you at 12:30 in the morning when you should be sleeping and you're thinking about work, which it has been in the past. Like in older apartments, when I was a student, of course, the computer is at the foot of your bed, sort of situation, and that's always a
Yeah.
problem. But the one thing I do miss about having the 9 to 5 and the 9 to 5 working for somebody else, to be clear too, is that at 5 or 6 o'clock when I finished my production management job in
Hmm.
animation, that was it. When I had nothing to do, I could do nothing until 8:30 the next morning at the office.
Hmm.
So in the evenings, I could do whatever the hell I wanted. Now I have uh, a habit of hanging out with Jocelyn, of course, after we finish dinner. I tend not to go back to work after dinner unless I've got a deadline or something very specific I have to do. We tend to watch, something relaxing on television, talk about the day, kind of hang out, that sort of thing. But we also eat really late because of her shift work. So I still work until about 8 p.m.,
Right.
when she gets off work, and then I have an hour to make dinner or something before she gets home. So, you know, it really kind of takes its toll working from home for yourself because it's a 12-hour day, give or take,
Hmm.
plus you're just always thinking about what you could and should be doing because you're the only one pushing your business forward. But when you're working for another company, if you're not working late, there might be somebody else that is. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of teamwork going on there, and that I find when I was working for somebody else was a bit of a stress relief. In terms of just kind of like that mental check at like I could, as long as I did my job, then there was
Hmm.
other people doing their jobs, and I had faith that they were doing it properly. Then everything was going to work.
Yeah, I mean, when you work for a big company on a big team, there seems to be a lot of like when you're working on your own, it's like a lot of risk management, doing what needs to get done,
Hmm.
working late to get things done for a deadline. But when
Yeah.
you're on a big team working for a faceless, evil or good corporation, doesn't really matter.
They don't have to
It's
be
more
evil.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, they don't have to be, but it seems more like blame management. It's like I had a conversation with somebody who said like, well, I'm gonna get this done. So if someone comes looking for it, it's on somebody else's desk and it's not my fault. It's not my day. I'm like, okay, that makes you productive, but like that's not very nice,
Yeah.
But it's so true. I mean, when you throw a bunch of people to work on something, the motivation to get something done is sometimes like it's done and off my plate and it's on to the next thing, right? It's like an assembly line kind of thing. So, I mean, not every place is like that, but you run across it more times
Yeah.
than not.
Yeah. Well, I've been on my own now for, wow, I want to say 5 years. I think 2006 or 2008, maybe.
Wow.
2008. 2008 would be about when I went full time freelance from home. And one of the ways that I've been able to make ends meet and get myself out there has been comic conventions. And
Mhm.
I am really excited to be at Hal-Con this weekend. Hal-Con, I've mentioned a couple times on the Citadel Cafe, has brought me back as a guest. And I just got my itinerary the other day, and I will be doing, I think, a grand total of 4 panels for Halcon over the course
Wow.
of the 3 days. Yeah, one of which will include your podcasting partner in crime and my partner in life. Jocelyn Moffat, as we do a panel on podcasting. I will also be doing one on webcomics as well as a process panel, which is like they get into the nitty gritty about like, pencils you use and what your creative process is, that kind of stuff. And there's also one called For the Love of Comics. And that I think is just kind of like how you got started, what kind of comics you like to read. So it's a little bit less about your work and more about why you like the industry and why you're a part of it and kind of what inspires you, that kind of thing. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. That's this weekend here in Halifax, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's also, of course, the Where Monsters Dwell drink and draw on Friday night at 9 at the Foggy Goggle, which is a local pub.
Cool.
And yeah, and it's a great pub. It's one of those places that doesn't have a deep fryer. So when you get roasted potatoes, it's like they're oven baked, which is awesome. And let's see what else is going on. There's a Hasbro art show happening on Friday night as well that I want to try and pop by. It's a bunch of artists, cartoonists, and graphic artists that got together and did some gallery work based on Hasbro toys and stuff they grew up with, like He-Man and Transformers and stuff like that. And I'm trying to remember if there was anything else. There's one other thing I feel like. Oh, right. Saturday, I'm going to be kind of sneaking out of Hal-Con on my lunch break and popping down to the Halifax Book Camp. They've invited me to speak on a panel about comic and graphic art and publishing. So I'll be there as well. And both Hal-Con and the book camp locations will have my book, Star-Crossed Volume 1, for sale. I will have a merchandise table at Hal-Con, and there'll be a general merchandise table at book camp. I'll stick around at book camp for a little while after my panel to do some signing and sketching if people want. And other than that, I will be found at my merch table at Hal-Con. Just follow me on Twitter at Joel Duggan, and anybody that's going to the con will be able to find me pretty quick. That's also where Jocelyn's going to be too. So if you want to come talk gamers and stuff and video games, Jocelyn will be at my table more often than not. Plus, she's got the opportunity to wander the con and take in some things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. It's something we discussed at Nerdtacular, like kind of mentioned, like it'd be really cool to get up to Halifax and send around. Not this year, like of course, but in future years, I think Ashley and I would probably want to come up for something like this. We can hang out. I think that this event sounds neat.
Yeah, I mean, having met you guys at Nerdtacular, I mean, you're more than welcome to crash here, which would shave a lot off of your trip budget. And seeing as it's not happening this year, God, by the time next year rolls around, you guys are going to be hitting, like 150 plus episodes of The Gamers Inn. I mean, given the subject matter, the gaming, and all the stuff that happens at Hal-Con, because it's a general sci-fi fantasy convention. It's not just comics. There's a whole floor dedicated to tabletop games and video games and stuff. You guys could probably get press passes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the criteria is, but I think your track record and maybe my/Jocelyn's relationship as it's been building with Hal-Con might be able to get you guys press passes, which would alleviate the cost of the pass, at least for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to like put words in anybody's mouth, but we're doing episode 98 this Friday. 52 plus 98. You do the math. Gets you pretty damn close.
Yep.
That is good stuff.
Absolutely.
That's something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's great too that you guys are so close to 100. That's a big milestone too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, November just snuck up on us.
Yeah. I was thinking about that when I announced the date at the top of the show. I was like, holy crap, it's November. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, before we move on, I do have another special announcement to make. Speaking of books, next week, my friend in podcasting, Bill Meeks, will be back on the show to talk about his new book. Dog Boy Den of Thieves is available at dogboyadventures.com. And to take a little bit of a quote from the author, Dog Boy, a.k.a. Bronson Black, is Colta City's 13-year-old superhero. When his parents die in a car accident, he's left in the custody of his mysterious Uncle Randolph. Using his magic kit and a strange precognitive power, he protects the city from Andrus and his guild of thieves. It's available right now on Kindle, Nook, paperback, etc. from the store link on dogboyadventures.com. And several other vendors are going to be added in the next coming week or so, including iBooks and a paperback version on Amazon. So look for Dog Boy Den of Thieves on Bill's website. I'm sure if you follow him on Twitter as well, you'll be able to hear a lot of updates and stuff that's happening there. I'm trying to remember his Twitter handle right now. I feel like it's just Bill Meeks, but I could be terribly, terribly wrong. I see. The thing is, once I'm friends with somebody, then I have a real issue remembering their Twitter handle because all I remember is their real name. It is just Bill Meeks on Twitter.
Hey.
Which makes sense. So I was right. But I've got other friends well, I mean, Lou's easy with, Busy Zombie Lord, but there's a lot of other friends that I have that I'm just like, what is their Twitter handle again? Like, ugh. Sometimes it's all over the place. But dogboyadventures.com is where you want to hit to get up on that book. And of course, we'll be able to talk to Bill next week about not only the book itself, but like the creative process, how he came to publish it, all that kind of stuff. Because he's doing a lot of digital publishing, which I know very little about. So I'm excited to talk to Bill. He also happens to be a big podcaster with regards to Once Upon a Time, the television show, which I am now 100% caught up on, or will be by the time next week rolls around. So we're going to talk to him about that too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm stoked. So, what has been gracing the small silver screen in the Ryan Murphy household this week?
Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned Once Upon a Time. I did give it a shot. It's up on Netflix now.
Yeah, it's good. Jocelyn and I finished the first 2 seasons in about a month.
Oh, wow. That was quick. I think we're having a bit of a weird, a lot of our TV shows that we're watching are sort of going away. Like we had The Office that finished last season, and then How I Met Your Mother. Yes, I watch How I Met Your Mother. You can make fun of me. It's all good. I started watching it in university before I met Ashley because it was like I've got nothing else to do, so I'm just gonna watch How I Met Your Mother. But it's actually on Netflix, the entire thing. So we're watching the last season. And it's like, well, we need something just to throw on when we don't have anything to watch. So we've been watching through How I Met Your Mother. But in terms of Once Upon a Time, like we threw on the first episode, and it's interesting. It's different. I didn't really know anything about it, so I was more encouraged to watch it. I've heard you guys talk about it on the show before, but I was more encouraged to watch it because I was playing the Wolf Among Us based on Fables.
Right.
Like that's something we've talked about in the past, and it kind of has that same vibe, right? So. I'm looking forward to hear more about it and checking it out. But just recently it's been a lot of like The Walking Dead. That's out now and new. But other than that, it's just the random TV shows that pop up. Nothing new, just a lot of old stuff, right?
Yeah. So how are you feeling about the new season of The Walking Dead? And we can throw out a spoiler warning here. I am 100% caught up as of just this past Sunday. So if you are not, we're going to be talking a little bit about season 3 here, so you might want to pause and come back to us a little bit later.
Now, season 3 or you're talking season 4?
Sorry, season 4. Season 4.
I just want to make sure it's like, oh, big spoiler. No.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm probably one of the more lukewarm people on the show, like on Zamp. The other two are really into the zombies and really into The Walking Dead, and me, it's the best zombie content you can get right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got that going for it. I mean, nothing is going to take that away for a long time. But this season's kind of hit and miss. It feels like you have your, in the early years of Walking Dead, you'd have like, it'd be a nice arc, like really good building up to something amazing episode, and then wind down, season over. But it feels like this season is kind of like all over the place. Like they're setting up something interesting with the virus and stuff, and then, they're in a prison and they have a large group of people and a good portion of them are getting really sick and dying and turning into zombies. They're like ticking time bombs, really. And I think that's really interesting, but I don't think the show is moving fast enough with that concept.
No.
Like it seems like they're making it really... making it seem like it's really dangerous, but they're not going anywhere with it fast enough. It's really weird, and you feel that they're just building up to something that has nothing to do with what they're currently talking about. That's really what I'm worried about right now.
Yeah, we found season 3, which we watched and then marathoned Halloween. So that's how we spent our Halloween together, was a nice dinner and then a marathon of Halloween candy and Walking Dead. I think we watched like 4 episodes to finish off season 3 that night. Okay. And we liked the season ending of season 3 too, actually. We thought it wasn't, a tight little bow, but it was enough of an ending that we felt it had a nice end. There were still some things that you were curious about where it's going to go from here, but it wasn't like a cliffhanger type thing. I mean, not that it mattered. We could just, watch the next episode, our first opportunity. But going into season 4, I liked the first episode because they fast forwarded so much. Like there was enough time had gone by for crops to grow, for all these new refugees to be in the prison. There was new characters. There was new roles for some characters. And I thought that was really interesting. And I like how they didn't beat you over the head with it. Like they were just kind of like, oh, here it is now. This is what happens. If you missed it, then you're just going to have to pay attention for the next 2 or 3 episodes to really catch what was going on. But then in the next episode or 2, they slowed to a halt again. They got really slow. I found it was quicker and was moving the story a little bit more this past Sunday when Rick takes, what's the gray-haired lady with the short hair?
Carol.
Carol, when he takes her on a run with him. And it's, you kind of have this really, Rick was really quiet because he was trying to sort out what he was going to do about Carol, who murdered 2 people that were dying with this flu in an effort to try to protect the rest of the people from being infected. And you can see from what she went through last season to what she's going through now, a huge change in her character. Like if you rewind to season 1 and take a look at Carol, and then take a look at Carol just this past Sunday, it is just huge.
Well,
the change in her.
The show's all about humanity. I mean, the zombies are just there. The reason her character's changed is not because of these zombies. It's more so because of the way people have treated her.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like losing her husband and realizing that, she's not kept under a wife beater anymore. Like she can do what she needs to do. But I still felt like that, what happened with her character was just so sudden, but that could have been just me not, wanting to see the change in her character. She was definitely getting stronger.
Yep.
But she was losing her humanity at the same time.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. Closer to the end of season 3, you started seeing a little bit more action from her. You started to see that she was pretty handy with a gun. You started to see that she was armed all the time and helping out and defending the perimeter and stuff like that. And it wasn't. I agree with you that it was sudden, but it was a sudden shift that kind of then made you reanalyze the last half of season 3. Like if you thought back to it, I mean, having the advantage of just watched it like last week, I went back and thought like, actually, Carol's been getting kind of hard ass from about mid-season 3. It was slower, but you could, if now knowing what she is and has been revealed to be, I kind of put it all together and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it's cool to see because so much of, well, television in general, but also so much of The Walking Dead give you these one-sided, just beat your head up against a wall characters like Andrea, who I am so glad is not in the show anymore. Jocelyn and I cannot stand her. Not only is the actor just lukewarm, but the character makes poor decision after poor decision that would get anybody else in the show killed.
Right. I mean,
I'm so glad.
The way she went out, we were all really happy on that show. I mean, I feel bad hoping for someone's death, but really you only get so many shots, and she sort of made her choices, and we see that at the end of season 3 when Rick, when she goes, I tried, and Rick goes, yeah, you tried, and then shoots her. It's like, or I can't remember if it was Michonne. I can't remember.
I think she took the gun from Rick and she offed herself, but Michonne was with her.
Yeah, and it's like, even Rick, at least the show didn't, knew what it was doing in the sense that all along it was setting up Andrea to be this, character that chose the wrong side and switched too far down the line. And she died because she made poor decisions and, instilled the viewers' opinions in Rick when Rick would basically admitted like, yeah, you tried, but in the tone of his voice, you could tell he was saying, you tried, you failed, and people died.
Yeah.
So, it's like, it's all about saving people for Rick. So when people in his camp let him down by letting people die, he has no tolerance for that. And I think it makes sense because he has kids, and when he sees people die, he immediately thinks like, not it could have been me. No, he thinks, oh, it could have been my kids,
Hmm.
could have been my wife, and it was his wife. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
just it's an interesting show, and I'm really curious to see where it goes with season four, because my co-hosts think that the governor is going to appear in some fashion during the
Hmm.
season, and I'm just really worried. I don't know why I'm always worried, because the show always proves to do at least something different from what cable networks or mainstream networks would do, in the sense that if you were watching it on NBC, the governor would show up with his eye patch, which he already has, and like a black cape, and you're like, "Aha, I'm back to kill you all," and he'd tie Andrea to some railroad tracks. But I think on a cable show like this, we can kind of expect him to come back in a more subdued yet crazy fashion, but not
Hmm.
like he's a supervillain, more like he's just, he's a much more twisted and down on his luck character.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting.
I really enjoyed the governor as a villain
Mhm.
for season 3, and I liked how quickly they let you know as a viewer that he was a bad guy. Having not read that far in the graphic novels, I mean they're way ahead of where I was in the graphic novels, and way ahead of Jocelyn too. Like we're both on kind of blank slates now, but it was nice to know because you got to hate him. Like you got to know that he was smarmy and that he was lying, and the sweet cottony outside was just rotten and disgusting inside, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and psychotic. Like there was a lot of things that you just saw snap at the end, you know. And I'm kind of cheesed off that he got away. Like I kind of wanted that to get. That was the tight little bow that
Yeah.
I was hoping for at the end of season 3. I didn't really care who did it, like whether it was Daryl or Rick or somebody. I wanted it to be Michonne. Like I wanted it to be something, you know, not epic, but something satisfying. Because the
Yeah.
whole season, Jocelyn and I were looking at each other like, this guy is gonna get his, and it is gonna be ugly.
Yeah. And I mean, like we go back to what I was saying about, like, if this was an NBC show, he would have met his end for
Mm,
sure. Like, you knew, and
yeah,
that's what we were all thinking.
I suppose
Like,
that's
oh,
true. Yeah,
great, it's TV season finale. Here comes the death. I mean,
death of the
we
bad
even were
guy.
saying like, who's gonna kill the governor this season? And we were all surprised. We were all let down that they let him go. But really, like, when you look back at that episode, he got away because of the issues, he had. I mean, he killed his entire team. I mean, he knew he wasn't going to be able to, take over the prison, so he had to jet, right?
Yeah,
And I think, he would have met his end if he had brought that army to the prison. But is it a cop out that he got away? No, I think they moved the character forward by
yeah.
having him murderously kill everybody, like go on a killing spree and basically take his two lieutenants, who probably would have ran if given the chance. But
Yeah, that was the other thing. I was kind of surprised. Like, I mean, it would have been. I thought another fitting end, as I was watching the episode, would have been them shooting him.
yeah,
But I don't know how or why they would follow him. I guess out of fear, out of survival. It's hard to say because the show does such a good job of asking hard questions as to
mhm,
what people would do morally, physically, if put in these situations, and answers them in a lot of ways in a very realistic way, which, like you said, is far from what we're usually spoon fed on television.
yeah,
And because I mean, like, what would I do if I was in, was it Ramirez? I can't remember his right hand man. What would I
yeah,
do if I was in that guy's position? I had been with him that whole time. He'd protected me in the walls, and I had been part of that protection, and I was carrying out his orders because I had a hate on for these zombie things that had killed my wife and my kid. And then he goes psycho and kills half of our friends. I don't know because I mean he didn't sound like he had any military training. He might have been reserves or something like that, but he certainly didn't say that he was a military guy. I mean, me not having any kind of experience like that, like I would probably just be too scared to do anything. You
yeah. And I
know?
mean, he was used to the way the governor was acting. I think he was privy to some of the evil things he was doing behind closed doors,
Mm-hmm.
similar to what Merle had been involved
Yeah.
with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only reason Merle switched teams is because of Daryl.
Yeah.
And I think this Ramirez character just didn't have anything. I mean, I'm sure he had friends that passed away, but he just looks at that and maybe he's closer to the governor than we think in the
Yeah.
sense that he's got sort of a. I mean, the governor is the perfect example of someone who's lost all humanity.
Yeah.
Everything he did was to survive, but not in a sense of surviving as a human. He was just sort of surviving as like a like a cotton talking a Terminator robot thing.
Well, yeah. I mean,
He
he
had no
even.
emotion.
Yeah. Well, and you said it earlier too, and or he said it because he starts talking about like base instincts of animals,
Hmm.
and that's exactly what he's acting like. Apex predator. Like, I mean, if you're either killing or being killed,
Yeah.
like that's just how that's how he interprets the world as it is in The Walking Dead. And I think maybe um, his right hand man there is just out of survival. Like, I mean, I can go against the governor and then I'm by myself, or I can stick with him and this other guy, and then we're at least three.
Yeah.
And three guns is better than one. When it comes down to it, in like I say these days, with the way that the world is in Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I've been really digging the complexity of the virus in season 4.
Hmm.
I like how well, not only that, there's been a change in the zombies too. I mean, you're seeing more zombies that are dying from this virus, which is the tell is like the bloody eyes. But the other thing is that everything in all of these zombies have been dead longer. So they look less like dead people walking and more like walking like skeletons. Like some of these zombies are gross when they're attacking people.
Yeah.
Like they're falling apart. They've got like their lips are all curled back. Like they've really kind of gone through rigor. Like it's really really gross. It's creepier in that way. But then the complexity of basically taking the continental U.S. and throwing it back into the Dark Ages, which the biggest problem was pestilence, like finding clean water and keeping your farm animals from dying of disease and being passed on by birds and pigs and all this kind of stuff. I thought it was a really cool dynamic to throw into the show.
Yeah, and it was needed. I mean, like one of the things people kept asking, like in terms of survival, it's like how are they finding water to survive? How are they finding food to survive? And they finally address it in this episode, and the way they address it is by everybody gets sick, and it's super true that if you don't, the more people you add to a confined space, the chances of disease spreading is super likely. But
Hmm.
I think one of the things I'm worried about, and an interesting theory that's popped up, is that this virus could be connected to some sort of overall. Either it could be connected to sabotage, in the sense that someone's infected the prison, or B, it could be just a really cool, science theory in the sense that when they were at that veterinary clinic in episode 4, there was zombies that had died, or people who had died from that same disease.
Hmm.
And I think the chances of, that strain evolving 7 hours down the highway, I don't know disease control and all that, but it seems unlikely. But, maybe, it started at this veterinary clinic and two things happened. Like one, someone brought it from that veterinary clinic and took it to the prison to infect them, or it's just some sort of spread. We talked about like birds or something, or flies, or it'd be interesting to see if that's something that
Yeah.
they explore.
Well, how it's being spread? Like, is it
Yeah.
bodily fluid? Like, is it blood? Is it consuming the animal? Is it just to something as simple as physical contact, or
Mhm.
like touching, or is it water? Like because if it's water, I mean, water's everywhere.
Yeah.
I
And I
mean, like
mean,
that would be a real problem.
it'd be interesting to see what route they take. I mean, obviously, like we were saying, like the typical TV route is, oh, it's sabotage. Someone brought in those rats and put them in the. I half expected in one scene when Carol kicked over that water bucket, you'd see like a bunch of half-eaten rats in it. It's like, oh no, we've been drinking it this whole time.
Yeah.
But, again, this show, rides that line. I know a lot of people don't like it because some say it's that show that they watch that's still bad, but when you compare it to a lot of TV shows out there, like it's still pretty good.
Oh
You know?
yeah, I think it's one of the more compelling shows to
Mm.
watch. I I don't find this season as anxious, but season 2 and season 3, like I was really kind of on the edge of my seat the whole time watching. And once I'm watching an episode and it's done, it's I've said this before on the show, like hit next. I'm ready. Like I want to know what happens. It's a compelling story despite some of my grievances with some of the characters. The overall story arc and show is something I really enjoy. But I have to be in the right mood to sit down and
Yeah.
start watching. Once I'm in there, I'm fine. But it's not something where I come home, with a spring in my step and say, "Let's watch some Walking Dead." Like it's just I need
Yeah.
to be at least capable of handling, the anxiety for a show, which I don't find as bad this season. So I'm more curious now than I am dreading, being on the edge of my chair for an episode. But yeah, so far so good. I'm looking
Mm.
forward to keeping up with it. Actually, it's nice. It's also nice to not have to avoid Twitter on Sunday night and Monday morning, as I'm now up to speed, and I don't have to worry about spoilers and stuff, which is nice.
Hmm.
Well, the other thing that I've been taking in this week was a complete departure from The Walking Dead. We noticed on the Apple TV that Monsters University was available for rental. After a long weekend of video game fundraising, Jocelyn wanted to just kind of chill out on Sunday and watch a movie, so we rented Monsters University. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised. I had heard not amazing things from some animation and other industry friends in the industry. And those people I normally trust their opinions. But all of us can be very picky when it comes to animated entertainment because we're kind of in that visual storytelling universe. So you can I want to say snobby, but you get really analytical when people are not doing it right. Pixar is not normally a studio that does things wrong. They've had a good success rate with sequels. Toy Story 2 is probably my favorite out of the three of those. But Monsters University was not bad for a sequel. I was actually pretty impressed. Have you seen it?
I haven't. I mean, it's funny. I haven't seen a Pixar movie since Wall-E,
Oh, really?
or maybe Toy Story 3 actually. It probably would have been the last one.
Hmm.
And that was just out of pure nostalgia. I mean, Toy Story obviously holds a very, is close to my heart when it
Hmm.
came out. I was a kid, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but and I love Monsters Inc. But it's weird. Like I haven't seen Brave. I haven't seen Cars 2. I mean, a lot of people haven't seen Cars 2, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's weird. I saw this in the store and I was like, I need to watch this. So it's worth watching then.
It's definitely worth the $5.99 to rent it on iTunes.
Okay.
It's not a movie like, I mean, I collect, animated movies because
Mm.
a lot of them are things that I will watch and rewatch for a number of reasons. But it's not a necessary movie. Like I'm just fine with the entire lore of the Monsters universe being contained in Monsters Inc. That is a very cute movie. It is one of Pixar's, I think it's one of their first three. Was it the third one they did? I feel like it was Toy Story, Bugs Life, Monsters Inc. I
Yeah,
feel like
it's
that's the order that they
definitely
were in.
yeah.
Um, but and even then, like so, it the story itself was, back then I don't think they were planning a sequel, and that's why this feels kind of forced. Like they're taking an existing property that has done very well and they're building on it. Now, do they build on it in a fun way? Yeah, like it's. I mean, the pros in this movie are that the characters are lovable as they always have been. All the great voice acting is back from Billy Crystal and John Goodman. There is lots of adult aimed college humor for the parents taking their kids, which is bang on. Like it is pretty apt to your first week on campus slash your first semester on campus.
Oh,
When
great.
you're a freshman. It's a little dated in that. Uh, I mean, I got a lot of the references. It felt a little bit more like a college movie from the 80s. So you can tell with the directors and the storyboard artists and stuff like that that that's probably around when they went to college. I don't know how accurate it would be for somebody that's currently in college now. I feel like there's a lot that has changed.
So you're saying people should watch Animal House then watch Monsters University?
You might draw more parallels there than you'd first imagine
Hmm.
because, like, I mean, I don't remember seeing a laptop or an iPod or a reference to the internet in the movie at all.
Oh, cool.
You know, like, so I mean, yeah, it's so, and not that to say that there has to be, because I mean, like, you don't know what exists in this monster world. I mean, like, there's still the factory with the doors and going through to scream at the kids and all this kind of stuff. But it's an interesting kind of spin, because of course they, I mean, they had in Monsters Inc. they had televisions, they had a lot of this kind of stuff. It was a little bit of a, like a, it wasn't a 50s vibe, but it was kind of a low tech, high tech sort of feel in Monsters Inc. if I remember correctly. So I don't know, like I don't know how much of a period piece they were going for, but they also weren't clear on it being a real big period piece. I mean, Sully and Mike looked younger, which is a pretty cool feat considering that they're, you know, really simple CG models on the surface. Uh, you know, they acted younger. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. So it had a unique kind of window to it. Um, but of course, if you put them side by side, Monsters University, I mean, technically is just beautiful. I mean, you thought that the fur on Sully and, you know, all the cool effects with what's the bad guy's name that Steve Buscemi plays?
Oh,
Reginald,
it's an
Reggie,
R one.
Reggie. I think it's Reggie.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Don't quote me. Anyway, he, like, all that kind of stuff with really cool Monsters Inc. Well, I mean, times that by, you know, 10 or 12 years of innovation in computer animation, in color rendering, light, just set design, animation execution, all the different things that they can do, to the point where at some cases you kind of felt like, all right, Pixar, you're kind of showing off. You know, like, some scenes were there to kind of just show, hey, cool, we could do this thing because it looks really neat. And it's like, I don't know if the story needed that, but it's a really cool visual. So, I mean, like, I'll let you get away with it. But everything in that world, like, visually, it's stunning. And, you know, if you're into animation and you really like that kind of stuff, then you'll get a lot out of, you know, Monsters University. The cons, however, is a really, really predictable plot. Like, they are pretty condescending with some story moments where, you know, main characters are meant to work at a team, and they say like a zillion times, we're going to work as a team, and this is a team sport, and we have to do this as a team. And then the whole while, you know, Sully and Mike are arguing about how they're going to execute this task. Clearly, they're not going to be working as a team.
Right.
So they're probably not going to succeed. And it's just like, well, I, you know, I could get that with just a couple of nudges. You don't have to have every second character say teamwork, let's do as a team. And it felt really kind of forced, you know, in a lot of ways. And it has the same emotional plot as the first movie.
Oh.
Right?
So there's this the girl
Well,
is
the girl isn't in it, but it's the
right.
relationship, like the best friendship between Mike and Sully.
Oh, I
You're
see.
seeing this at the beginning. And if memory serves, you know, Sully's the big guy, Mike is the little guy. The little guy supports the big guy, but they're supposed to be important on an equal level, and that's the lesson, you know.
Mhm.
But ultimately, Sully tries to look out for the little guy and ends up hurting his feelings because he's coddling him. It's the same story.
You
It just
know,
it's you know.
I find a lot of movies these days, and I'm not like comparing. I watched The Internship like a month ago or a couple weeks ago. It's the one. It's a comedy where Owen Wilson and another old guy, can't remember his name. They're like comedy partners. Anyways, it'll come to me later. They intern at Google, but they're like 40 something,
Oh,
and
it's Owen Wilson, the guy from Wedding Crashers. I don't remember
yeah.
his name right now, but yeah. If only I had a device at my fingertips that would let me look this up while you continue to talk about it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's got that predictable comedy, you know, plot arch where, you know, oh, it's two guys down on their luck and now they're in this hilarious situation and they're doing pretty good. And then they have a fall apart moment where like, oh no, they might fail and then they get back together and they succeed and they get the girl and they're successful. Yay. And I find that like almost every one of those comedies has the same plot, and it's like maybe that's why I haven't been enjoying movies lately because
Hmm.
it's so predictable, and it feels like almost every one of those movies follow the same, you know, point A is, you know, set up comedic event. Point B, they're doing well. Point C, oh no, something bad happens. Point D, they recover. Everyone's happy and happily ever after.
Yeah, no, there's
You know?
definitely a formula for that kind of stuff. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's even there's a there's a format. There's a guy that wrote a book in Hollywood about how to write a screenplay, and
Hmm.
it's like drinking water in Hollywood for screenwriters. Everybody uses it because it just makes money. Like it's something that you can do to not necessarily make an Oscar-winning film, but make a film that's going to be successful from a business
Yeah.
standpoint, right? Vince Vaughn is the other guy that you're thinking of,
Yeah.
and it doesn't help that Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn are the same dude in every movie they're in.
And you know what? The worst part about the internship and any other movie they're in is that when they roll the camera, they do that talk, jokey talk where they just keep talking. Like they wait for the director to yell cut, but he doesn't yell cut. They just keep talking, and that's supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Like they go on and on, like they're in a programming meeting and they're not programmers. They're like, wait, I get it. Like the bird does this, and then when the X comes by, then Superman comes, and they just go on and on, and the people who are actually doing the work are just sitting there waiting for them to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
They do it in every movie, and
Yeah.
it's annoying. I'm like, Ashley, I want to turn this off because this is annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been a fan of those. I mean, especially romantic comedies, they have a similar problem where it's like,
Mhm.
guy meets girl, guy screws up, guy spends rest of movie winning back girl, eventually happy ending.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the reasons why I like Love Actually so much is because it breaks that convention in a lot of the stories that it tells.
Mhm.
And I feel like, it's I mean, it's a problem of comedies, rom-coms, a lot of the like Meet the Fockers and like all those kind of just I want to say like Millhouse movies. Like they're just stamped and pumped out of a factory so that these guys can keep their cars in their mansions and
Yeah.
doing stuff. I mean, not that to say there isn't a gem,
Oh,
among
yeah.
them. I feel like I don't remember the name. I'd like to name anything off the top of my head, but I feel like there's a couple of movies that I have seen in the last few years where I was pleasantly surprised. Oh, what was it called? It's got Ryan Reynolds in it, actually, surprisingly, and
It's not the Sandra Bullock one, is it?
no, definitely maybe. Although the Sandra Bullock one wasn't bad. It wasn't god awful, but it was formulaic. It was the same sort of thing. But
I like Ryan Reynolds.
I do enjoy him. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily like him as Green Lantern, but
I
I
couldn't finish that movie.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Right on. Well, speaking of movies, I don't have anything else that I've been watching, but I do have something that might interest you, especially when it comes to cinematic soundtracks that cross over into video game soundtracks, which I know you're very into. So, in my short time in the last little while, I haven't had a lot of time to watch movies and television, but I have been able to get onto YouTube quite a fair bit. Quite a fair bit. Wow, not hard to tell that it's 10 o'clock at night. And I found this link to the Best of Epic Music 2012, 20 tracks and 1 full hour cinematic. It's a mouthful because it's just somebody putting together a YouTube compilation. And I was basically I was just looking for new movie scores to listen to, and a lot of times I just go to YouTube and just kind of hit play on somebody's playlist or something, because people will often annotate, what movie and what track uh,
Mhm.
is being played, so you can then look it up and buy the album or something later. With this though, and it's all credited, all the audio is credited in the description underneath the YouTube video. Uh, it starts off with some cinematics from what I think is Square Enix Final Fantasy. I'm not 100% sure on that. But it's really cool looking, especially if you can get like a 720 feed going. The music is great. It's not orchestral score, which is what you're used to when you're watching a traditional movie, but it's still composed. It's just that it's a digital symphony, if that makes any sense. So it's still a composition. It's just that instead of the budget for a giant orchestra at Skywalker Ranch, they did a digital composition, and sometimes rightly so because they wanted to achieve a certain look, kind of like how Mass Effect music feels.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the whole thing is not really freaking cool CG cinematic stuff, which the first 15 or 20 minutes is. They cut to like some Harry Potter sequences, and there's some other live action stuff. There's some movie clips of National Geographic, but most of it I was just listening to. I just kind of looked over my shoulder to look at stuff. But man, there is some cool music in this, and it's very upbeat. If you're looking to kind of just have something that's non-vocal to kind of get some work done in the afternoon, then check out the Best of Epic Music 2012 on YouTube. And I'm sure there's probably a 2013 one coming. There's probably a 2011 one. There's all kinds of stuff out there on YouTube that's very similar to this. You can even get into like lists of like people's favorite video game soundtracks, and it's kind of a cool way to discover some new orchestral stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the cinematics from Final Fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Final Fantasy follower. I've never actually played a full game of Final Fantasy, but I am playing Realm Reborn, which has a fantastic cinematic intro, which I believe they're using either music or footage from. I quickly scanned the credits before the show, but yeah, Square Enix is known for kind of kickstarting the fantastic, amazing CG for video games, which was quickly followed by and in my opinion, beat by Blizzard came in and just they're the mark now to beat.
Yeah.
Square Enix is probably a close second, um, and then I guess Blur would be a close second, and then Square Enix below that. But yeah, Square Enix has some really cool CG, and whenever they have a new game come out, you best be sure to check out like the cinematic intro. I think the next game they're coming out is Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns or something. And usually it's like the main character whipping and jumping and slashing, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the visuals are impressive in terms of like the quality and stuff like that. I would say that the Final Fantasy cinematics suffer from some content stuff
Hmm.
because of the style of the games. I mean, it's all very anime. Some characters look cool, like a full-grown adult with like a sword and his or his double-bladed axe or something, look really cool, jumping and charging and whipping around. But then the little anime characters with the little like fox tails and horns or ears or something with the great big eyes, they look
Hmm.
really cool in a manga cartoon, but they don't translate to CG very well at all.
Oh.
They look kind of like dead puppets. It's really strange when you take it into a 3D model and you don't take some creative liberties and make their eyes look real, or like it really is just a kind of a CG interpretation of the flat manga drawing, and I find it takes me right out of it, you know. And some of the I mean, you can make something look as beautiful as you want, but when you show me someone charging in the battle on the back of a glorified ostrich, I'm not exactly going to be on board. That's just a personal thing. I'm
Oh,
sure
chocobos, man. Come on.
I'm sure they have proper names and they have some special powers or something. But I just, if you give me my 2 feet and a heartbeat versus riding into battle on the back of a chicken, I'm probably going to stay on my toes.
Yeah, I mean, you go through as many Final Fantasy games as a true fan has, then you come to trust the Chocobo brand.
I see.
I don't know. I mean, I have a friend who played Final Fantasy 7 or whatever to death, and he'd go on about his Chocobo farm and he had the perfect black Chocobo or something. I don't know. I'm like, man, and you make fun of me for playing Pokemon and stuff. It's like, come on, that's basically the same thing.
Yeah, really though. Really
Uh,
though. So I mean, I say that, and like I'm a mount whore in WoW. Like it's one of the achievements. It's
yeah.
one of the few achievements that I've been striving towards is to try to get 100 mounts. And I love a lot of my mounts, but I tell you, when I'm anything that's a bird, anything on two legs, they've animated them funny or they don't look very good. Like it's the problem that I have with the raptors is that the raptors look amazing until you move, and then you
Right.
just feel like you're riding on the back of a chicken. In which case, as a blood elf, you actually can ride on the back of a chicken. It's a blood hawk or something. I can't remember what it's called, hawk
Yeah.
strider. But they're ridiculous. They give you like an aneurysm if you try to run around on the back of them because they they're jumping like they're pecking. Like it's incredibly annoying. But yeah, it's just not something that I personally have not been able to get on like behind is having the two-legged bird mount just doesn't quite unless it's flying. Jocelyn has like a phoenix mount or something, and that's really cool. But
Huh.
because it flies around, it doesn't like poke around on two legs. Like even when it's on the ground, quote unquote, it's floating and flapping. It doesn't actually touch the ground. I don't think it has feet, as a matter of fact. It's kind of like a big purple smoky bird.
Oh,
Like
see,
it's
I was happy to get a
ethereal or
dragon.
something. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm quite happy with my I think I have a cloud serpent and I've got an albino drake, and those are pretty badass. I'm quite happy flapping around on those because when it lands, it's got legs and it walks like a normal mount.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and plus, I mean, I'm just so used to. I mean, being a paladin, I've had a horse, an armored horse mount since like level 20. So you're just used to looking. There's something. I as much as I like imagination in my sci-fi and fantasy, there's a certain amount of like tradition I also appreciate. Like, put me on an armored horse and I'm happy. It doesn't have to be crazy imaginative like a chicken or have six legs or anything like that. Like just some things I'm okay with canon. you know.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to be this is based on medieval. You want it to be medieval.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much.
I get you.
Well, I guess we can move on to the Internet Minute here. Do you have anything cool you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like scrambling, like, what am I going to talk about? And I remember this cool app that came across. I have not tried it, but the website is just so darn neat that I had to share it. And it's called Knock. And it's an a Mac/iPhone app. And what it allows you to do is use an iPhone app and you knock on your screen twice and it unlocks your computer.
Oh,
It's
cool.
really neat, and the website is actually really well done. It's a great example of building a really fantastic website that sells a product. There's a big download button in the top right that gives you the app for your Mac, and it tells you whether your Mac will actually be compatible. And the app is free on the Mac. And there's a really nice, well done advertisement, and it's worth a watch and it's worth checking out. The app is $3.99. I was actually just going to quickly check again, but yeah, the app is $3.99 on the iPhone. And the reason they encourage you to download the Mac app first is because it's only compatible with newer MacBooks, and the compatibility list is on their website, but it's basically 2011 and above
Right.
for most
Yeah,
models.
that's when they switched to I think it's the Ivy Bridge.
Mm.
There was a key shift in the chip with
Oh,
the
I see.
2011 MacBook Pros
Yeah, I think it
and
just
beyond.
uses Bluetooth. It might be a specific type of Bluetooth that they're using, like maybe a
Yeah.
low power Bluetooth or something.
It's
But
it's also it also has to do with it's got something to do with how the processor deals with that because I know one of the limitations of mine 2009 MacBook Pro is I can't do all the cool AirPlay mirroring that
right.
Mavericks allows newer MacBooks to do, and it's got something to do with the way that the processor handles video information because I feel like in the new MacBooks, and I could be wrong, even though they have really kick-ass video cards, there's a way that the processor gets involved when your video gets too heavy, and it's a way for the Macs to just seem like they're way more powerful than they are in the stat sheet,
Hmm.
and so they limit a lot of stuff on the older Macs. But no,
Yeah.
that's a cool idea.
It reminds me of there was an app that I had on my Mac when I first got it, which was basically like a security camera app. And if someone tried to log into your computer and for every password they got wrong, the webcam would take a shot of their face. And if
Hmm.
someone tried to lift up the MacBook, the app would start running off an alarm sound. And it was really just a stupid app that, you would never use, but it was there to kind of show off the technology, what you could do with your Mac and stuff. And this sort of feels the same way, but pairing it with your iPhone and your Mac. And I don't know, it's just a neat way to use technology. And I never lock my computer, nor would I have a reason, but I'm still kind of tempted to buy this app.
Hmm. Yeah, no, and well, this it's just a simple nod to what a clean, successful website will
Mhm.
do for your product. Like, I mean, it sounds like something that I would use. I can't say that I would shell out $4 right away for it, but
Yeah.
I would certainly be enticed to watch the video and take a look at it. I don't travel a lot with my MacBook, so that's like it's just always home. So having it be locked or unlocked or being able to use my phone to do it is not a huge deal. But if I was taking this back and forth to an office job, yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah.
But it's just the website alone is enough for me to say, like, I'm curious about this product. I really want to check it out. And if the video is as compelling as even just the visual ad, then I'm sure that it seems like it's something they've put a lot of thought into.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I am impressed. So yeah, I guess for anybody that's uh, got a new MacBook Pro, first, I'm jealous. Second, check out what's it called? Knock2unlock.com. It's funny when they put all these words together, sometimes you can't read them as a URL,
Yeah.
because I was like,
I wish.
knock to unlock? No, oh, knock to unlock. Got it. Yeah, okay, cool.
Thought you were gonna start summoning the undead or something.
Joel does.
Nocto, unlockto. Oh no!
Wahoo, 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 wah. Yeah, no,
Oh, now I
Joel
wanna
does
watch Evil Dead.
URLs live on the show. Always fun. Well, I'm not even going to bother to try to spell out this next URL, which is my pick this week. This is called the Pixelstick. If you look for Pixelstick on Kickstarter, you will more than likely find their campaign, which has done very, very well. 300,000 out of their $100,000 goal, with still 36 days to go. So, and I think they might have only been, like, done on like a 40-day thing. So like they're doing it the way that everybody else should be doing it, apparently. And what they are selling is something really, really unique. If you're familiar at all with light painting, you've seen these videos online, I'm sure, which is where people take overexposed photography, whether it's video or still camera, and they use a flashlight or any other kind of light source that's bright enough, and they draw with it in the air. And they can spell things out, they can do animations, they can make faces and do drawings. Depending on how many different colors and how many different people you have, you can almost do like a performance art. So what the guys at Pixelstick have come up with is I can't remember how large it is, but it's roughly 6 feet tall, maybe a little bit longer. And it's got a series of LEDs down the shaft of it, as well as a handle in the middle of the back, which is perpendicular to it, that has a free kind of freeform cog on it, so it can rotate free of twisting the pixel stick. But you can then pre-program the pixel stick to display images, essentially one row of pixels at a time. So if you think about an image on the internet as 300 pixels wide, you could then program one row of these pixels, 300 pixels tall, onto the pixel stick via SD card. Then you can move along the path of your animation, taking a picture every time as you change the pixels on the stick. And then what you're left with is what looks like a floating hologram in your pictures or in your photographs. And they illustrate all kinds of different techniques in their video. It's totally worth checking out. It's surprisingly cheap for something that is like kind of in the prototype, ready to manufacture phase. In the world of fine art photography, $250 for this thing, if it's what you're into, if this is something that you do, if you make short films or you're looking to add this to your kind of repertoire as a photographer or an animator, lenses for cameras go for much more than $250.
I was gonna say that's like quarter of a shitty lens.
Yeah, no, exactly. Lenses are, sometimes $500 to $1,000 minimum, I would think.
Yeah.
I've been out of the photography game for a while, but it seems like it's a pretty reasonable price. It's an expensive toy, but it would be a cheap piece of pro equipment. And obviously, the stuff that they're doing in videos are either things that they've done or other creatives that they've let play with this thing professionally have done. There's even some Pokemon-looking things, about halfway down the page. But it's a very, very cool device. I would just encourage anybody that's into art or photography to go check out the Kickstarter video, and I'll have those links available in the show notes. But it's Pixelstick on Kickstarter. Totally, totally cool.
Neat. this is why Kickstarter exists to make projects like this exist.
Mm-hmm.
And this,
Absolutely.
always things like this renew my interest in Kickstarter because most of the time it's like, well, for a good stretch it was like, oh, there's a new game on there. It's like, well, let's kickstart it. But now it's like, look at this awesome technology. Let's make it happen, folks. As
Mm-hmm.
opposed to going to like an angel investor or something, they can just go to Kickstarter, and if it proves to be something cool, then it funds. And I mean, the practical like uses of this, like I'm sure we can't think of them now, but once it's out in the market, like there's probably like doing a lot of like wedding stuff now. Like they might be able to do something really cool that people would be like photographers would be willing to invest in to offer something in their packages for events, with these pixel sticks. It might be
Absolutely.
something like that, maybe.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of the Citadel Cafe. We record live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on joelduggan.com/live. Music for the show is composed by Kevin MacLeod, and of course, the podcast is available on demand via iTunes and our website, thecitadelcafe.com, which is where you will also find the show notes. You can contact the show at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or on Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus with just the Citadel Cafe. Ryan is one half of the Gamers Inn, and what time do you guys record and bestow your gaming goodness on the rest of the internet?
Every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on amove.tv/live. This week, as we mentioned before, Jocelyn is off at Hal-Con with Joel. So we are, I mean me, I've been left to sort of like, make sure everybody gets their gaming goodness on a Friday night. So I've roped in Bob Fournier, who is also my co-host on Zombies Ate My Podcast, and we're going to talk about video games, and that's as far as I got. I'm not really sure what we're going to be talking about. I know most of the BlizzCon news will be out in the wild by the time we record, so we might cover like early BlizzCon stuff. We're definitely going to see a new WoW expansion, maybe some tidbits on the next StarCraft. But yeah, there's going to be some Blizzard talk, I'm sure.
Nice.
It's going to be fun.
So you guys record on amove.tv on Friday nights. You can find out more information at gamersinpodcast.com or amove.tv/TGI. We were going to talk about this earlier in the show, and it just kind of slipped my mind. But one of the reasons why you guys recorded on, I think it was Sunday night or Monday?
Monday night.
Monday night this week was because you and Jocelyn headed up a team with James from Initiative Check this past weekend for Extra Life, which was a charity gaming marathon. And I mean, it's my pleasure to give you guys a shout out on the show. I mean, I participated in a kind of a sideways way where I was, helping and supporting Jocelyn in her full run of the marathon, where I was joining you guys for some specific games. But you guys did a fantastic job blowing your goal out of the water. What was the end result of Extra Life 2013 for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we aimed for 2000 and we really pushed our team to hit that goal before the event, which we did achieve. And our final tally was $4,359, which is 218% of our goal, which
That's
is
awesome.
crazy considering last year we raised $2,001. So next year, I don't know. It's gonna be tough to, I thought it would be tough to hit 2,000 this year, and we nailed it. And it's certainly due to the fact that, in the last year we've grown, and with James's help, we've been able to, get the word spread out there. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, obviously tiring, and we all didn't, make it to the very end, but I don't really think that's, I mean, a lot of people say like, oh, you didn't do 25 hours, but I don't think that's what the event is about. I think the event is about having a good time, raising money for kids, and not killing yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta, your health comes first, and the last thing you want to do is, put yourself in the hospital trying to raise money for kids in hospitals. So,
Yeah, you don't want
uh,
to join them.
no, but we all did really well. We all hit our goals for the most part. We all contributed. All the footage is available in a raw format on Twitch through the twitch.tv/amovetv and the Gamers Inn. But in some form or fashion over the next couple months, as time permits, Jocelyn and I will be going through the footage and creating highlights and getting that up on our YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/Jocelyn Moffat.
Yeah, and I mean, especially where you guys can still technically take donations up until I think Christmas time.
Yeah, actually, the unfortunately the website was hit by some DDoS attacks throughout the event, and took down the website for, I think they said, a total of 6 hours over the course of the day, and it was just really hard for us to hear that.
Hmm.
And we found out this week that they're actually doing a makeup day, which is this Saturday. I'm gonna try to stream some stuff, but they did extend the donations to to December 31st. And we're still taking donations. Obviously, if you haven't donated yet or you want to kick in some funds, every little bit helps. And you can find our page at bit.ly/TGI Extra Life 2013. It's just rolls off the tongue. Joss and I were talking about it. It's like, I can't wait till we never have to say that URL again. And it's like, well, we won't. We'll just have to add 2014 to the end of it. That made her a little unhappy.
Yeah, you guys could probably find a shorter way to say it somehow.
Probably.
Somehow. But all the proceeds go to the Children's Miracle Network, which supports a number of hospitals. I want to say internationally, if not at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, my name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am up to online at joelduggan.com, which is where you can find Starcost Volume 1, available on my web store, as well as my itinerary for Hal-Con 2013 this weekend. I made a blog post earlier this week. You can find out where I'm going to be and when, and come say hi. Come, say hi, shake my hand, talk about comics, whatever. Just always happy to meet new readers at events like Hal-Con, especially where there's so many people traveling from abroad. I'm really excited for this weekend. So please don't be shy. Come on up and talk to me at the table or at a panel or wherever you have an opportunity. Ryan, where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter at rmurphy. As we mentioned, Gamers In. Throw a little love in my other shows. I'm on Zombies Ate My Podcast with Bob and Lou. Currently, we're running through The Walking Dead, so if you enjoyed our conversation here on the TCC, or I guess on TCC, you should check us out at zombiesatemypodcast.com. And we're hoping to have Joel on before the mid-season finale.
More than happy to, sir.
Yeah, because we you know what? We want to throw some new blood in there, and I think, we have some interesting conversations, but we really want to inject, different opinions into the show. And I'm going to talk to Jocelyn as well, who is not a big zombie fan, but like I said, we're always looking for different conversations. So, I mean, Jocelyn, if you're listening, I haven't talked to you about this yet, so, future Jocelyn will know.
Future Jocelyn will know. Yeah.
Yeah, she'll know. And hopefully she says yes. But the other show is Sleeping with the Elephant. I do with Paul every week, and we talk about American and Canadian culture. And you can be sure we're going to talk about Rob Ford on Thursday, because how could you not?
Oh, boy. I've just been shaking my head, man. That's all I've been doing.
Thing to do. Yeah. There's no other reaction.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.